I always wrestle with this. When things get dark in your life, what do? You create darkness around you. You shut yourself off from individuals. You lock yourself in the corner. You all people who you know love you, you check out. Right? You create darkness around you. Right? When you're in that dark place, what do? You close all the windows in your home and pull the shades down. And if somebody comes up and opens the shade and let the light in, it's like something hits you. This is Jesus right here talking about the distinction between God's light and darkness. The beautiful thing about light is when you're in the light, you're exposed. You can't hide from anybody or anything. What you are is what you are. You can't put on a facade or a mask because the light is shining through all that stuff. You are naked before God. And that's what Jesus is saying to not only Nicodemus, but to us. That God so loved the world that he gave Jesus, his only begotten Son, that if we believe in him, we would not perish but have everlasting life. But then he says, Jesus did not come to condemn you. Jesus did not come to push you into the darkness. Jesus did not come to make you feel bad about yourself. Jesus did not come to point his finger at you and browbeat you and talk down at you. Jesus came to save us from ourselves, from our own human instincts, from those things that keep us from being who God has really called us to be, from those things that keep us from having a cheerful word for another, for giving a genteel hug for one another. It used to be a time where one could open the door for somebody, whether it was a female or male, it doesn't matter. And that person would walk through the door and say, thank you so much. And if there was a double door, that person would walk through the door, get that door, and then open the door for you. And nowadays, again, I'm not going to make this gender specific. If somebody opens the door for you, you look at that thing like, what you saying? I can't open the door myself? I mean, what kind of instinct is that? To the point now where you see somebody, male or female, and they look very nice, and you say, you look gorgeous today. Well, what does that mean? I don't look gorgeous any other day? Our own human instinct, which turns something that could be a positive situation into something potentially negative. And why is it? Why is it that we always look into something and try to read into something to try to see if there's some ulterior motive in there? Wow, that's a pretty skirt. Would you try to get my name or something? And we've all been there. We've all been there. And I would argue that what Jesus is saying here in the scripture is this, that I am here, that if you believe in me, that if you believe in my love, if you believe in my kindness, if you believe in my grace, if you believe in my favor, then not only would you receive it, but you would share it. Because the way that you acknowledge that you have it is by giving it away. I said this before. The more you give, the more it increases your capacity to receive. You become a good receiver by being a good giver first. Because when you give, you understand the sincerity of the gift. You know that you're giving this with no intentions, no ulterior motives. So when somebody gives something to you, you can receive it in that same light. It's the same way with love. One cannot give love until one receives love. That's a heavy one. One must acknowledge that God so loved you that God ripped apart God's self, whether him or her, we don't know. Ripped apart of God's self and made that part of God's self a human being to come down so that God can say to each of us, I know you know that I sit high and look down low, but by coming in as a piece of human flesh and by acting in the form of humanity, you can now say that I care enough to come in a form that resonates with who you are. And because I came in a form that resonates with who you are, and I suffered, and I bled, and I died. I was human. I ate human food. I had human relationships with individuals. I was let down by individuals. I was hurt. I was pained by individuals. People failed my expectations. But God says, because I have shown you that I love you so much, I want you to feel what love is. Love is giving of oneself to the point where it doesn't necessarily hurt. It may, but you certainly feel it. It's when you give a portion of yourself over to someone else. Love. When we acknowledge that God loved us so much that he gave his only begotten Son, and that he gave his only begotten Son not to put us in a situation of duress. That's why verse 17 is important. It's not duress. Jesus says that you have a choice. You can accept and receive me, or you can continue going and doing what you want to do. Because at the end of the day, when mine come home with me, it's because of your choice. Right? So Jesus is not condemning those who choose not to follow him. Jesus is saying that I come, that you all who choose to follow me will have life and have it more abundantly. Many people don't want to be exposed by the light because it shows our flaws. It shows those less desirable features in ourselves, whether physically or whether emotionally or whether perhaps even mentally. It shows those things that we have worked all of our lives to cover up. Those flaws that we began to notice as young people, and those things that perhaps you were never a fast runner, so you never did sports, and you got to the point where your children are not doing sports, but you want them to do sports, but you don't want to do sports with them because you're not a fast runner. You don't want that to be exposed. At the end of the day, what matters? What does it matter? Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. And so the light is where we seek to be, where all of our flaws and all of our little foils and all of our nuances are restored. I want to end by sharing this. True love accepts all the flaws, nuances. True love accepts all of your faux pas and your, we call them, pet peeves. All those things that just irk you. True love accepts all of those as a part of who you are, as a flawed human being. True love allows that to be real, and we accept it. God has called us as a community of love to be true lovers of one another. That means that we accept one another for all the things that we have and have not, for all the things that may make us unique, for all the things that perhaps we were teased about in younger stages of our lives. Those become valuable because those are God's footprint. Like these QR codes that are on the back of the bulletin. Each of them is uniquely different, even though when you first look at them, they all look the same. Each of them are speck spots with some kind of numeric, positioning of where they are. And when you scan them, they go to different places. That's how we are. We all have a very uniquely different DNA. And the only way to acknowledge that God has created us to be something special is to accept the fact that we are something special. And so as we preached about a few weeks ago, God has called us to unity, but God did not call us to uniformity. Right? We're not supposed to all agree on everything. That's the beautiful thing about life. When you can come and debate certain obstacles and challenge things, you have different point of views. And then sometimes you debate those things and you both go to your own corners and you haven't changed your mind. And then 5 years later, out of the blue, you're like, oh my God, now I get it. He or she was right. And your mind changed just like that. Those of us who are young people, will recognize that as we grow into our teenage years and go to college and do our things. And all the things that your mother and your father were saying to you that just didn't make sense. Now all of a sudden, they click. And believe it or not, you mark my words, you turn about 19, 20, 21, and you start saying the same things that your parents used to say to you. The things that you could not stand when they said. And here you go reciting. And then you're 24, 25, 26, and all of a sudden you start walking like your parents. That same old walk that got on your nerves. When you know they were irritated about something, put their hand on their hip and did something like this and called your name, you begin to do that. And then praise God, when you have your own children, all the things that you told yourself you were not going to do, guess what? In exact order, you do it. That's the beautiful thing about life. It's so cyclical, it just makes it kind of funny when you really think about it. But that's God's sense of humor, by saying that you have to acknowledge the real. And the real is what the truth is. And that's what God says under the light, the truth. And so I pray that as we move forward, that we receive each other, accept each other for who we are. Those uniquely individual, different people with various nuances and things that make us drastically different. But it makes it so wonderful for us to love one another, to support one another.